excited to bring back Deva Madhava Prabhu. We can't get rid of him. It's now the North America and the North American leg. It is the last leg of our marathon within a marathon across all countries across the globe. We've gone through Australia, Japan, Fiji, Thailand, Africa this afternoon, Europe, and now we're in the last leg of North America. So welcome back, Prabhu.
Thank you for having me. It's my one thing I can take credit for is sticking around good souls like you.
Likewise, Prabhu. So we are going to get started with some kirtan, break it up a little bit. We
Great.
have the incredible youth from ISKCON of Silicon Valley, who are multi-talented, and you'll get a chance to see with their command over so many different instruments. So take it away, Youth Jam.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshaparine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Jai the King. That glory from another. Hari Hari.
Fired up.
Absolutely. They certainly bring such an energy to what we've been presenting so far. So thank you. Even though their name comes up as Jamulus, that is not their name. I learned that. They're the Youth Jam program. So I'm not calling you Jamulus, I promise.
Beautiful. Up next, we've got Gopal Hari Prabhu, who is sitting as the Distinguished Chair of Ethics at Aurora University, which is a university here in the US. And he's written several books. He's on the Shastric Advisory Council for our ISKCON community. So we know that Srila Prabhupada wanted his books to get into the hands of academics, and many of the books have appreciations from academics printed at the beginning. But Prabhupada also wanted that his own followers become those academics and bring the deepest sense of purpose into that arena. And so Gopal Hari Prabhu is one of the people on the front lines doing that service for his own self and for the rest of us. So excited to hear from him.
The Bhagavad Gita is taught in universities and colleges around the world. It has brought and continues to bring a spiritual revolution in the lives of millions of people. The Gita is a book of spiritual wisdom, a guide, and a friend to the spiritual seeker. It provides answers to life's most difficult questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do I suffer? But the Gita is not just a book of philosophy. In a world overcome with turmoil, pandemics, and war, the Gita serves as a practical handbook on how we can live our lives to overcome suffering. The Gita presents a message of hope that although crises and tragedies may plague us at every moment, one day the sight of Krishna will occur, ending the repetition of worldly existence. The Gita teaches us to face and overcome all reversals in life by the strength of bhakti for Krishna. And it celebrates devotional heroism, the facing and conquering of unavoidable suffering through intensified devotion. The Gita tells us that the ultimate purpose of all our temporary suffering is eternal freedom and never-ending spiritual joy in intimate association with Krishna. Suffering is a means by which devotees, Bhagavatas, are understood to be elevated from already existing greatness to eternal glory. As models for ordinary human beings, saintly devotees such as Arjuna, in such conditions of adversity, underscore the Gita's message of hope that all human beings, and indeed ultimately all living beings, may become exalted, overcome the bonds of Maya, and attain Krishna Prema, love of God, by imbibing the Gita's vision.
Incredible to hear from such esteemed professor and underscoring the beauty and the message of hope from the Bhagavad Gita. So we're moving along here in North America, and we're actually going to have a session with 4 different people, ranging from new people who have been reading the Bhagavad Gita all the way to seasoned practitioners who have been reading the Bhagavad Gita since birth. So we have a segment called Impact of the Gita, and we'll be seeing Anandamari Das Jugal from Boston, Gauravani and his entire family, Varangi Devi and Charles. And as I was mentioning, they're all from different walks of life. So we have a former monk in there, we have a multidisciplinary artist, we have a boutique owner and mother, a management consultant from a large corporation, and seasoned practitioners. So we're very excited to hear this next segment.
Hare Krishna. In celebration of World Gita Day, I'd like to share a little bit about what Bhagavad Gita means to me. I first came in contact with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in 2010. I was a student at the university, and I remember was very much searching for some kind of consolidation of all the different ideas that I had heard and all the things that I had felt and all the kind of intuitions that I had about spiritual life and all the questions that I had yet to answer. And when I read Bhagavad Gita, it felt as though all of those things all of a sudden had a voice. when Krishna began to speak in the 10th chapter about all the ways in which his glories are spread throughout the entirety of his creation, and that with a single fragment of his self, he's performing all of these miraculous things. I felt like that was one of the most profound things I ever read. And specifically, one of the verses that really stands out to me, and I feel like speaks something that really no other book that I ever really came in contact with kind of spoke directly to, is chapter 4, verse 10, where Krishna says, all the great souls of the past, they ultimately have to give up fear, anger, and attachment. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada's writing about this fear of being a person. And so for me, Bhagavad Gita really opened me up to the personal experience of the absolute truth, and which is something that I had never come in contact with before, yet it was something that felt so natural and true to me. So this is why Bhagavad Gita really means a lot to me. I mean, so much more could be said, but thank you.
My name is Jugala and I'm from China. Hare Krishna, everyone. So the impact of the book Bhagavad Gita has been tremendous in my life. I've been searching for absolute truth, studying about like Buddhism, Taoism, meditation, yoga. But this book literally has the answer to everything, from how did the universe come to creation, why we're here on earth, what happens after death, and how to progress spiritually. And I realized that we're not here to fulfill our desires and chase after material wealth, but to reestablish our connection with God. And after I received this book from my yoga teacher, I started slowly chanting and going to kirtan. So I'm eternally grateful to my yoga teacher, my best friend, and everyone else on this path. And the best thing is that now I'm able to introduce this book to my friends and my clients and share this fountain of happiness with them as well. Thank you, Haribol.
Life is filled with so many difficulties. Everything from politics to COVID to social media.
But by studying Bhagavad Gita, I can help us through those difficulties and confusing times.
Ready? Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishyami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
So how has the Gita impacted my relationships? So after reading Bhagavad Gita and studying it, I have learned that there is a higher purpose, that I'm living for a higher yes. And this shift in perspective has allowed me to realize that I am no longer acting or living for the sole purpose of enjoying my body or exploiting the things outside of it for my own enjoyment. So this naturally, obviously changes the way in which I interact in so many different ways. The way I think, the way I speak, the things that I eat, the way that I treat other people. Understanding who we are, which is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that we're spiritual beings and we're living in a material world, a material experience, but this isn't really who we are, has allowed me to relate to others, animals, people, even my own job and activities in a different way. So because of the shift in perspective, now my relationships have been naturally upgraded. I am no longer looking for what I can get or how I can be served or how I can benefit from something all the time. Of course, it's still there, it's a process. But even at my early stages of spirituality, I've already seen such a huge difference in the way that I process things, in the way that I think about myself, in the way that I interact with other people. The quality of my relationships is so different. It is beautiful to see how when you start working on yourself, when that perspective changes, you actually start attracting a different kind of person, a different tribe. And in my life, I think that's the biggest gift that I've gotten from the Gita. So yeah, studying the Gita tapping into this tradition has given me a spiritual family, a community, a tribe. And I think that's at the highest of relationships, being able to commune, to get strength, to be uplifted and uplift others, just based on spirituality, on knowledge, on things that actually matter, on things that are real. And really what's more real than tapping into our essence. And so that has changed my life completely and forever. And I'm forever grateful for my teachers and for my community, because now I understand and I have an example of what a real relationship looks like. And it helps me develop myself for one day being able to have a real relationship with Krishna. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. Hare Krishna.
With the upcoming World Gita Day, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share some of what I've learned by reading and discussing the Bhagavad Gita with my Bhakti community. The first of which is selfless service. Studying the Gita with my Bhakti community has really opened my eyes and mind to new opportunities to serve in my day-to-day life. One recent example of this is, I recently returned to my work office in San Jose, and I recognized an opportunity to bring food with me and offer it to the homeless people I encountered. The second topic I'd like to talk about is the three modes of material nature: tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is the mode of ignorance and darkness. Rajas is the mode of passion and excess desire and activity. And sattva is the mode of goodness, peacefulness, and calmness. Having awareness of these three modes and how others and I am affected by these three modes has enabled me to shift my focus in various situations to be more peaceful and calm and share that with others. I've been able to see how I move in the world has changed and how I interact with others has changed in a positive way. And I'd like to share a quote from the Gita. The quote is, "Selfish action imprisons the world. Act selflessly without any thought of personal profit." And with that, I'll continue to ask myself two questions as I move into the new year. And I invite you to ask yourself these same questions. What will I do to serve? How will I use my gifts and talents and material possessions for a higher purpose? Thank you.
Wonderful segment.
Yeah, Charles ended on a very good note and a nice meditation for the new year. A lot of people are making fun of 2022, feeling like it's the same as 2020 in many regards, but what a nice meditation for the new year and thinking about how we can serve others.
Yeah, I like that. The two things he's holding on to, service and the clarity that comes from seeing things through the lens of this framework, the three modes of material nature. I think that's something that we can all do a little more of. Mm-hmm. We have now, I'm guessing we're going to hear Vishvambar Prabhu sing, because that's what he's exceptional at. He always brings such heart into anything he sings. And we have Vishvambar Prabhu of the Mayapuris singing the Gita Mahatmya, which is a beautiful glorification of the Bhagavad Gita that's found in the Shastra.
Hare Krishna, my name is Vishvambar Seth. On this holy occasion of Gita Jayanti, I would like to share the Gita Mahatmyam written by Sripad Adi Shankaracharya. Gita Shastramidam Punyam Yapatet Prayata Puman Vishno Padamavapnoti Bhaya Shokadi Varjita. One who with regulated mind recites with devotion this Bhagavad Gita scripture, which is the bestower of all virtue, will attain to a high abode such as Vaikuntha, the residence of Lord Vishnu, which is always free from the mundane qualities based on fear and lamentation. Gita dhyayana shilasya pranayama parasya cha naiva santihi papani purva janma kritani cha. If one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Maline mochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine sakrit gitamrita snanam samsara malanashanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganga water of the Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. Gita sugita kartavya kimanyai shastra vistarai Ya swayam padmanabhasya mukha padma vinishrita. Because Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. One need only attentively and regularly hear and read Bhagavad Gita. In the present age, people are so absorbed in mundane activities that it is not possible for them to read all the Vedic literatures. But this is not necessary. This one book, Bhagavad Gita, will suffice because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bharatamrita sarvasyam Vishnu vaktrad vinishritam Gita gangodakam pitva Punarajanma na vidyate. By drinking the Ganges water of the Gita, the divine quintessence of the Mahabharata emanating from the lotus mouth of Lord Vishnu, one will never take birth in the material world again. In other words, by devotionally reciting the Bhagavad Gita, the cycle of birth and death is terminated. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dokta Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dukdam Gitamritam Maha. All the Upanishads are like a cow, and the milker of the cow is Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda. Arjuna is the calf, and the beautiful nectar of the Gita is the milk. The fortunate devotees of fine theistic intellect are the drinkers and enjoyers of the milk. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantrastasya Namani Ani Karamapyakam Tasya Devasya Seva. There need be only one holy scripture, the divine Gita, sung by Lord Sri Krishna. Only one worshipable Lord, Lord Sri Krishna. Only one mantra, his holy names. And only one duty, devotional service unto that supreme worshipable Lord Sri Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Purifying.
Very much so.
Yeah.
He could sing the alphabet and they would still be just as mesmerizing.
Exactly. It'd be like heartfelt. Tears would come. A,
I
B,
think
C.
I think that's a challenge that we need to have for next year for Vishwambara Prabhu. Can he do it? I think he can. With that, we're going to move right along and we're going to hear from more esteemed professors and dignitaries in one sense. We'll have Dr. Vrindavan Priya Das. And interesting story that I just got to hear or read from his bio. Through pursuing his PhD, first of all, PhD, which is a big feat in and of itself, but pursuing his PhD in applied physics, that he came across this Bhakti tradition while studying at Stanford University. So I'd really like to hear more about how that kind of came about in applied physics. And we're really going to get a chance to hear from him about the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So very, very excited to have you, Dr. Vrindavan Priyadas.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me here. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at this forum. As the intro said, yes, I was pursuing my PhD at Stanford University and I was studying applied physics when I met the devotees and came across the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, and it did change my life in a profound way. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and also speak from my own realization about the essence of the Gita. If one attends introductory college or a high school course in physics, the most common topic, the first topic that one will encounter is to study motion, movement, right? The principal characteristic of this world, of the natural world, is motion or movement. If you see, the natural forces are always in the churn, they're always moving. The celestial bodies are moving, the sun, the moon, the earth, all the planets, they are constantly in motion. Coming to living entities, you see that living entities, I mean, if you see a human baby born, you know, the first thing they'll start moving their limbs, start moving their eyes, watching the world around them, trying to absorb information. They grow up, they start crawling, walking, running, and then the human society as a whole is not satisfied with human motion or animal motion. They invent automobiles, locomotives, aeroplanes, and so on. So the fundamental nature of this world is rooted in this idea of motion or movement. But when I came to the Bhagavad Gita, it offered a paradigm shift in the way we think about movement or motion. What it emphasized right away in the very beginning, Lord Krishna speaks this to Arjuna, that it is fundamentally the living entity, the soul, which is moving through the experience of different bodies. So the changing bodies is basically can be viewed as the soul moving through different forms of experience. And all motion in the mind, in the subtle body, or in the physical body, or in the world, is actually a manifestation of this fundamental motion that's taking place in the spiritual realm. So that offered a very different perspective on the world, and that really captured my imagination. I came to gradually see that the living entities are in the center of the Vedic worldview. It's a philosophical worldview. It's a description of the world while keeping the living entities in the center, not matter in the center, which otherwise is done in all material disciplines of study. So the Bhagavad Gita's essence can be described as a description of 5 essential aspects of reality. One is the living entities. They are in the center. They are interacting with the material energy that's called as Prakriti. The evolution, the combined evolution of these both takes place under the influence of time, known as Kala. And this evolution naturally results in manifestation of the activities of the living entities, and that's karma. These are the 4 aspects of reality, and all these 4 emanate from and are controlled by the Supreme Controller, Ishvara. So jivas, the living entities, Prakriti, material nature, Kala, Karma, and Ishvara. These are the 5 aspects of reality that Bhagavad Gita explains. The next question is, what is the living entity with this worldview supposed to do? And that's elaborately answered in the Bhagavad Gita. That's really the crux of the message of the Bhagavad Gita. The living entity is now supposed to establish connection to their source, to the divine source, and that's the Supreme Lord. You can call it Paramatma or Bhagwan in its ultimate nature. And this process of connection is yoga. And therefore, every chapter in the Bhagavad Gita is titled as some form of yoga. It's Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and then finally Bhakti Yoga. So the whole synopsis and the theology and philosophical understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, it culminates in Bhakti Yoga, but it takes you gradually, step by step, through these different forms of yoga, often referred to as the yoga ladder. The Bhakti Yoga, in essence, is unconditional and unhesitating surrender to the Supreme Lord and to engage in his devotional service. Chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita is specifically focuses on Bhakti Yoga, but the whole theme is built up throughout the text, and it also culminates and concludes in Bhakti Yoga. Mai eva mana adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya. This verse in the 12th chapter reminds me that one who places his mind on Lord Krishna and resides in him with his intelligence, such a person is sure to attain him, and he'll always live in Lord Krishna. This is the highest position, this is the highest ambition, this is the highest kind of a destination that a spiritual aspirant can aim for. And the Bhagavad Gita offers a very tangible, a very practical way to achieve this. The end result is, one's life is transformed, one experiences bliss in one's life, some genuine sense of happiness, and a motivation to share happiness, love, and kindness to all of mankind. So I urge all the followers on this channel, all the viewers today, to dive deep into the Bhagavad Gita, enrich your lives with its philosophy and the practices it prescribes, and share the same with everyone that you come across. Thank you once again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrindavan Priya Prabhu. It's when somebody with a strong intellect, Krishna says, one who worships me with their reads this Bhagavad Gita, worships me with their intellect. And you can feel the unique relationship between strong intellect and Krishna's presentation in the Gita when someone like yourself speaks, Prabhu. So thank you for bringing that in.
My pleasure. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
We also have another professor who was a neighbor of mine not so long ago, Professor Abhishek Ghosh. And I just got the bad news that he's down in Florida now. Electorate seals everybody. And but I always love hearing from Prabhu, and we're going to now. He's somebody that grew up in the culture of Krishna consciousness, and particularly Bengali Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and that brings its own special flavor. Somebody like myself, a convert off the streets, living a very different life for many years before coming in contact with the Gita. There's a nuance that comes through when someone like Professor Ghosh speaks, somebody who's really lived it and breathed it, their whole existence. It brings something sweet. So excited to hear from him now.
Thank you, Deva Madhava Prabhu, for that. Are you able to hear me?
We can, Prabhu. Yeah, great to hear you.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. And yes, I miss my neighbor from the Harmony Collective. But you're welcome to come to Gainesville. It's a beautiful place. When I was invited to speak on the Gita today, and I was told the theme is impact, the first thing that flashed across my mind was the asteroid that hit Earth and killed off all the dinosaurs, because, that's what I'm constantly talking about with my daughter. It's like, impact, that's what an impact is on a global scale. But that's a negative impact, at least for the dinosaurs. in terms of a positive impact, another kind of a metaphorical asteroid hit my life. And that was a book that my grandfather gave me when I was about, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And he pointed to one verse saying, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagascha. Right? I have created the 4 Varnas based on Guna and Karma. And this is the kind of training I received. Since you mentioned I grew up in a Gaudiya culture, it wasn't fun. My grandfather pointed out, says, why would Krishna create such a cruel system like the caste system? So here's the book, get the answer, find out and tell me. And so that was the first time I read the Bhagavad Gita. And I found out it was not about caste. It was a trick question. I ended up reading the whole thing and I had my answers. And guna and karma does not mean that you're fixed by birth. The guna is a quality, your talent, and karma is your activity or your career. So based on your talent and your career, you have a certain role to play. But even that, what your career and your talent and the time and money that you put in and the money that you get out of it is impactful in our whole lives, right? We define ourselves by our careers. However, there is one more layer to that impact, which is the existential layer. The question, why do we do what we do? Why get up in the morning? Why go to school? And I have so many students who tell me that I try to get through school as quickly as possible and skip through the boring parts so I can get to earning money, right? It's like, okay, why do you want to earn money? Oh, because I want to marry the girl or the boy I want. I want to buy the house that I want. It's like, why do you want that? Oh, I want to live, happily. And why do you want that? Because otherwise, what's the point of life? It's like, okay, right, let's pause right there. You want all these things in your life so that you can have an impactful life of satisfaction, right? And I think we are trying to look for solutions at a place where you can't find any. And that's how I often introduce texts such as the Bhagavad Gita. And the copy that I have now, and this is my favorite copy. Are you able to see this? This was hand printed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur from his lifetime. And he writes that when I was composing the Bhagavad Gita based on the commentaries of Baladev Vidyabhushana, and by the way, that's the commentary Srila Prabhupada used to write the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this is the source book. He said, I was working all night and within a month, I went blind. And so he said, and remember in those days, they didn't have a dictaphone, they didn't have electricity. So he was literally lighting a kerosene lamp and writing with his ink pen volumes of Vaishnava literature. And that's where I think the answer to why we do what we do is answered kind of tangibly, impactfully, and in a transformative way, right? And as we go deeper into the question of what is impactful for us and how can we be impactful for others, the one kind of linchpin to that question is we cannot be impactful unless there is sacrifice. Look at the sacrifice of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He literally drove himself to blindness composing the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada, drove himself to starvation while composing his Bhagavad Gita, 1100 pages manuscript, which got lost. And from all that I know, he had an argument with his wife and she sold it to buy tea and biscuits, right? And so every decision we take, everything we do has an impact on the planet. The question is our impact leaving this planet in a better shape than we found it? And the stuff that impacts our life, are those leaving us in a better shape than we are right now, right? And that is where the knowledge of Shastras actually come into relevance. If you think about it, at the end of the day, the Bhagavad Gita is a little piece of paper and ink printed on it, with some words, but it's the ideas that are contained there that are impactful. It's only when we forget about this translation or that translation, and just go straight into the ideas and focus on just one translation that is translating those ideas into our lives. That's when the Bhagavad Gita starts working. That's when we see impact. That's when, we see that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. That's where we see the Bhagavad Gita really come into play, right? So this is not an ordinary book. It is one of the most impactful conversations that happened on planet Earth. And it's so impactful that 5,700 years later, we're still talking about it. During Krishna's times, there was no American corporations. There were no yoga studios. There were no universities. There were no professors. Yes, there was education. There was farming. It was a rural society. But that conversation that happened so many thousands of years back is an existential conversation. Why are we here? What are we here for? Where do we go from here? What's the point of it all, right? And if I were to summarize the Bhagavad Gita in three simple words, three simple, impactful words, the first would be dharma, the second would be yoga, and the third would be rasa. What is dharma? According to the Bhagavad, dharma is satya, socha, tapa, daya, the four pillars of a civil society, the four legs of the bull that impregnates the cow of Mother Earth, and then there is peace and prosperity. In fact, if you look at the genius of the Bhagavad Gita, and I'll give you a little pointer here, the first verse of the Gita starts with dharma kshetre, right? And so the first syllable of the Gita is dhar, and the last verse of the Gita says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partha Dhanurdaraha Tatra Vijaya Sri Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. This ends with ma. So if you look at the first syllable of the Bhagavad Gita and the very last syllable of the Gita, and you join them together, you will get dharma. Right? The book is about dharma. But dharma for what? When you practice dharma and you start interacting with the world on the basis of dharma, then depending on your guna and karma, you practice some form of yoga. And by the way, yoga is so varied that even your depression could be a form of yoga. Anything that connects you with your deepest level of existence, your Atman and Paramatman, is yoga, right? So Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Vishada means depression, dejection. He's feeling terrible. But remember, every crisis is an opportunity. And whenever we are faced with a crisis, we can either fight or we take flight. If we take flight, we've lost an opportunity. But if we fight, we've taken up an opportunity to do yoga, to connect with ourselves, to connect with Paramatman, to bring out the best that we can in a crisis. But why do all of this? Why dharma? Why yoga? Because of rasa. Rasa vaisa. That means we essentially are living sparks, the dynamic energy that moves all of the static energy around us. And why are we dynamic? Because the essence of us is to love and be loved, right? And so if we are to look at the Bhagavad Gita in these three simple words, which Mahaprabhu explains as sambandha, which is dharma, abhidheya, which is yoga, and prayojana, which is rasa. These just three simple words. You'd get the whole Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell, and it's actually quite simple and transformative, or rather impactful, right? Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts today. And if I can take one question if anybody has any.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
The characterization there at the end with dharma as as sambandha, and then yoga as abhideya, and then rasa as prayojana. It's a very memorable framing. And I'm wondering if most of the watchers are going to be Braj Bhaktas at this point. So I'm just wondering how does that framing relate to that particular rasa that most of us are aiming towards? What is the relationship between the Bhagavad Gita and Vrindavan?
Well, rasa doesn't necessarily mean Vrindavan. Prabhupada says, give me Vaishnavas like Hanuman and Arjuna, who can get on the streets and, fight the good fight. That's also rasa. So rasa doesn't mean pie in the sky when you die. Rasa doesn't mean escaping. Rasa means being present in the world. There is Veera rasa, that means the rasa of chivalry. That's also a spiritual rasa according to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So somebody who is working at Silicon Valley, somebody who's running a Harmony Collective, somebody who is working at Wall Street, they all have their own rasas, right? But it's covered. Every living being has a unique rasa with Krishna. But because it gets covered by so many layers of conditioning, we live in a warped reflection, so to say, Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. And only through the process of chanting and cleansing the heart, we discover our rasa. So how is rasa relevant to the person going to Wall Street? Well, if you are looking at screen all day, instead of letting the numbers worry you, you realize that at the end of the day, I'm dependent on Krishna. So that's dasya rasa, right? To the book distributor going out during the Gita marathon and getting rejection. And I mean, you think about it. Being on the streets and being rejected by every single person is not a happy situation, but doing that sacrifice is also a rasika experience, right? And so that's the rasa of dasya. Or if somebody is running an orphanage, right? And to see that these are all little sparks of the divine, they are all children of Sri Krishna. Let me serve them well, right? Whether we are cleaning the bathroom, whether we are writing a doctoral dissertation, whether we are tilling the land, rasa is integral to our life. It's not something that you get only in Vrindavan. Vrindavan represents the highest form of romantic rasa, but that's not for everybody, right? So everybody has access to rasa. We are rasa vaisa, that Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. And I'll finish this answer with a little Rasika Tika on the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna is talking about Brahman, in one place, commentators point out that he's made a grammatical mistake. Instead of calling it Brahman, which is neutral or sometimes masculine, Krishna says Brahmi, which is feminine. And why would Krishna make a grammatical mistake? Right? And so a lot of people rack their brains around this. And one of our Gaudiya Acharyas pointed out that, even when Krishna is counseling Arjuna in the middle of a battlefield, in his heart, he has never forgotten Radha. So that thing, that Brahmi, refers to Radha in the Gita, right? And so Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the embodiment of all rasas, because he can be in Veera rasa in the middle of a battlefield, but also have Shringara rasa, which is in Vrindavan. And that's why Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. But for us, mortal souls, I think we need to start with the point of dharma. And this is why Srila Prabhupada pointed to the 4 regulative principles, not as devotional service, but as the basic litmus test of whether you're civilized enough. Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say, first become a good human being, then try to become a Vaishnava. Don't try to become a big Vaishnava, try to become a better Vaishnava, right? So I think that's where dharma and yoga becomes more relevant, and then rasa comes as a gift.
Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful connection. And we also have to thank your clever grandfather for inducing you to study ardently the Bhagavad Gita, although for a different purpose. He tricked you into paying attention in a very blissful way, we can all tell. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hari Hari.
I feel like I'm going to have to watch this segment again with pen and paper in hand, so I can jot down all the wonderful gems that he just shared. I'm genuinely blown away right now. I'm trying to.
We'll have to make him his own continent next time, so he can just have the program.
Exactly. Just a whole section for Prabhu. I'd love that. Again, I think we all needed to have our notebooks with us. Well, we're going on further with actually a Bharatanatyam piece. So we're very delighted to present a dance performance by Suprata Bhomik, and she will be depicting the various characters from the Mahabharata. For those who may not know, the Mahabharata is this Maha, or a very large fight that happens that actually brings us to the point of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna and Arjuna are placed in the middle of the battlefield, and this wonderful divine song is presented. So we are very delighted to see that. So let's see Suprata dancing to the Mahabharata. You can feel the emotional turmoil of Draupadi in that scene, very beautifully depicted.
And the arrows were flying, and the prayers were being offered. It was reminding earlier, we also saw a beautiful dance from a young woman, and it was reminding, I like to read war books sometimes, battlefield strategy, and strategists often talk about battle as a dance. And it's a very appropriate way to convey the turmoil and the tumult and the ecstasy happening at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Okay, we're going to move on now and hear from some moms who are on the battlefield all the time and how they take shelter. How they take shelter of the Bhagavad Gita to support themselves and to support their children. We have Bhakti Rasa, who's a mom from Texas, and she read the Gita while she was pregnant. And then another devotee, Sita Rani Devi, and she sits with her child and chants the Bhagavad Gita, especially the Sanskrit, and finds that that helps her child to make it through some learning challenges that she may have.
Hare Krishna, my name is Bhakti Rasa Devi Dasi, and during the time I was expecting my daughter, I joined a Vedic scripture reading group for expectant mothers in which we read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. As we all know, pregnancy is a stressful time with a lot of hormonal, physical, and mental changes. And also, it has been said that the emotions that a mother feels can also be felt by the baby. And by reading the Bhagavad Gita, it just brought so much peace and balance to me. And I can see that these qualities have also transferred to my daughter. In general, she's a very happy and loving child, and it's all credit to reading these powerful scriptures. I really encourage all expectant mothers, fathers, and families to take advantage of these valuable books that have been given to us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This is Sitarani Devi Dasi. I have a special kid. Her name is Sanskriti. She is 12 years old kid. Today I want to share my experience regarding mantra meditation, how it helped for the special needs. I really strong feel that the mantra meditation, reciting slokas, reading Bhagavad Gita and reading stories from Bhagavatam, it's helped my daughter enormously. Reciting slokas, it's helped my daughter articulation level, and reading stories from Bhagavatam, it's helped her memory power. Especially the mantra meditation, it's helped her remain calm. I really encourage other parents with the special needs to teach their children this mantra meditation. Let them chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, read Bhagavad Gita and read stories from Bhagavatam to them every day. You will definitely see some improvements on your children.
Translation: one who offers me a flower, a fruit, a leaf, a water, I will, with love and devotion, I will accept it. Thank you.
Powerful testimony.
Certainly, and very practical use of the Bhagavad Gita, and seeing it live in your child is certainly something special.
Reminds me of seeing pictures of moms with like headphones on their bumps.
Yeah.
And they're playing some classical music or something. So what's the best classical music to play? The song of God himself. And let your child hear that.
I think those companies that sell those headphones should be, maybe we should work with their marketing team to kind of get them on the same page.
That's a great idea.
Well, we've been speaking about the Gita and the way that it can impact your life on, say, a mental level, but we're now going to hear from two amazing practitioners themselves who have been able to connect the Bhagavad Gita and its teachings with actually the health of our own bodies, mind, and intelligence. So we'll be hearing from Radha Vallabh Prabhu, who is a chef, an author. Again, these devotees have many, many titles after their name. He's a chef, an author, a yoga teacher, and a life coach. And he'll be speaking about how to assimilate the right diet to help us improve our health of our body, mind, and intelligence, as well as Gaur Nataraj Prabhu, who is an Ayurvedic practitioner and consultant who's actually pursuing his PhD in Ayurvedic as we speak. And they'll both, again, be speaking about how we can connect Gita with wellness.
Wonderful.
Namaste. Let me share a beautiful sloka from Ayurveda. It is said that to eat is human, but to digest, divine. Now you may be wondering how. When I read Bhagavad Gita, I come across this sloka which inspires me a lot about food and diet. There Lord Krishna says in 15th chapter 14th sloka, Aham Vaiswanara Bhutva Praninam Dhasvitam. So in every living entity the Lord resides as digestive fire, Vaiswanara. So this fire helps us to digest the food. Now if I eat something and don't digest, then instead of giving health, it may completely destroy my health. So therefore we have to understand the principles of digestion. So what we eat, when you eat, we have to eat according to the strength of the digestive fire. In this way, we worship the Lord. And that helps us to gain a lot of health. Then Krishna says, Pachami Annam Chaturvidam. All four types of anna, food ingredients, like solid, liquid, something swallowable. These are four types of anna that we eat, or food ingredients, food we eat. Four types of food we eat. And that food, when digested, gives us prana, or life. So in this way I see Bhagavad Gita speaks a lot about health and wellness. Please do read. We're celebrating the Gita Jayanti week. So you can read, speak about it, spread the knowledge, spread wellness. A very happy 2022 to all of you.
Hare Krishna. Today is Gita Jayanti. As a consultant and a practitioner of Ayurveda, Ashtanga Yoga, meditation, diet, and pursuing my PhD right now in the field of Ayurveda on how to reverse chronic diseases by Ayurveda, lifestyle, yoga, and meditation, the principal words of my PhD is from the 6th chapter, 17th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Yuktahara, Krishna explains the process of living healthy, of how to overcome all pains, miseries, and diseases. Eat right. Everything begins with eating the right diet. Yukta Vihara, right recreation, right exercise, right meditation. You should choose the right one with proper understanding, with a proper teacher. Yukta Chesta, having the right desires. Karmasu, right attitude towards work. Don't be greedy. Work detached, compassionate in your life. Yukta Swapna, sleep at the right time, sleep well, prepare well, and wake up at the right time. Clear your body, purify yourself. If you do all this in the right manner, then what does Krishna say? Yogo bhavati dukkhaha, all the pains, all diseases, all suffering in the body, mind can be eliminated and one can experience peace. And immediately as this chapter finishes, once you have achieved this, the next chapter begins with Maya Sakta Manah Partha. How can you attach your mind to Krishna? To attach your mind to Krishna, your mind has to be pure. So this verse tells us how to purify, how to balance our body and mind. So let us apply these teachings of Bhagavad Gita, become free from all difficulties, all diseases, just by applying this one verse. Imagine you apply all the verses of Bhagavad Gita, you can achieve so much more. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Practical and helpful reminders. We can't only sit back and be armchair philosophers. We have to do the right practical things with our physical well-being so that our mental well-being can bring us to a place of experiencing our spiritual completeness.
As much as I'd love to just sit and eat gulab jamuns and read Bhagavad Gita, I'm getting a sense that I can't do
that. We have just 2 segments left, and they're 2 very appropriate segments. One, to conclude us, we're going to hear from His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. But just before that, we're going to see some highlights of book distribution here in North America. And that's really the spirit of World Gita Day, is to remind us that as an ISKCON society across the planet, unity and diversity, Vaisheshika Prabhu reminded us a few days ago, diversity is the easy part. Differences will always be there. But where can we find some unity? Where can we find some commonality? And Srila Prabhupada gave this mandate of book distribution being so dear to his heart, not only because it's effective for the public, but as we see, it's a way to keep us all together. It's a way to keep us all feeling close, and a common sense of purpose that's healthy for all of us to support. So we'll watch some highlights of that from North America now.
The agonizing pandemic has caused millions of people throughout the world to suffer directly from COVID-19, and millions more of their family and friends to suffer indirectly. To prevent further damage, governments around the world have implemented lockdowns, which have resulted in economic problems and severe increases in mental health problems like anxiety, depression, suicide, and drug overdoses. There's not only a serious, potentially fatal disease spreading rapidly and taking lives throughout the world, but there is simultaneously a mental pandemic in the making that urgently needs to be addressed. While our frontline health workers tirelessly fight the visible COVID-19 pandemic, there is also a dire need of compassion and inner strength to fight the less visible mental pandemic.
To this end, we need well-wishers like you to make this world a better place. One of the proven ways to achieve this goal is to tap into the universal wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred poem whose title translates to Song of God. Great thinkers and leaders have always found shelter in the Gita's timeless wisdom. In the words of Gandhi, when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. The famous philosopher Henry David Thoreau reflects, "In the morning I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seem puny and trivial."
The Bhagavad Gita systematically presents universal wisdom to transform society both at an individual and a collective level. For example, the Gita offers techniques to transform the human mind positively by cultivating virtues such as maturity, balance, compassion, and gratitude. This inner transformation manifests outwardly into positive interactions with the society around us. In short, the Gita empowers us to transform our minds, our individual lives, and the collective world around us. The profundity of the Gita's wisdom is discussed in academic institutions throughout courses on conflict resolution, leadership, and management principles. The Gita's wisdom is inclusive of everyone, irrespective of nationality, race, age, gender, color, or culture.
Our goal is to offer the panacea of the Gita for the welfare of individuals and communities at large, thereby alleviating the invisible mental pandemic. We sincerely urge you to join hands with us in making this world a better place by helping distribute the Grace of Gita, Gita, a guide to inner transformation and awakening.
What a great way to end our whole World Gita Day, and further underscoring this point that Deva Madhava Prabhu just brought up right before about unity and diversity. We saw countries being depicted in that last scene, not just in North America, but all across the world, in places like Japan and Pakistan that we may never have thought of having a copy of a Bhagavad Gita being presented to someone else. And it makes the whole situation very magical. And I don't think that magic will ever decrease in any way. That this Bhagavad Gita can be translated in so many different languages and can still be relevant to anybody, living thousands and thousands of kilometers away, or miles. I'm Canadian, I use kilometers, but kilometers or miles away from us, and be able to bathe in this timeless wisdom. So we are going to have Vaisheshika Prabhu, who has been the captain of and steering the helm of this ship with the BBT, as well as the marketing team that are behind this amazing, blissful World Gita Day celebrations. And before we get to that, before we get to hear from Vaisheshika Prabhu, we just want to highlight that this World Gita Day is part of another marathon called Live to Give. And its goal is to distribute and share these Bhagavad Gitas in every language possible, even if it means going to Antarctica for a little short trip, but giving it to everyone. And we're trying to hit and smash the goal of 2.2 million Bhagavad Gitas shared all across the globe. And that marathon is continuing on. It doesn't stop today. And if you've even watched a moment, 10 minutes, an hour, or the whole thing like some of us have, I hope you are feeling inspired and enthused to be part of this amazing campaign. So if you are feeling those amazing adjectives, enthused and ready to go, there are links if you're watching us on worldgitaday.com, on YouTube, everywhere that you're watching us, you will see links on how to donate, whether you would like to get a copy for yourself, get a copy for a friend, family, pet, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, or sponsor a box so that other people can continue on that distribution chain and share it with everybody they know. As well, I wanted to lastly point out that Again, you're probably watching us on YouTube, mainly YouTube, or on worldgitaday.com. You'll see a little scroller at the bottom. These are all of the names that have been participating all across the globe. So you'll see many, many names. People are taking screenshots of when they see their name scroll by. So a huge thank you to all those participants. As our last clip, or our last segment of today, we are blessed and honored to reintroduce Vaisheshika Prabhu. As I mentioned earlier, he has been spearheading this whole project of World Gita Day to make sure that we are unified. And the battle cry this year is assume it can be done. So that 2.2 million Gitas, we assume it can be done, that we can not only hit that goal, but we can smash it. So very excited to hear from Vaisheshika Prabhu and get that last moment of blessings and prayers that we can meet that goal.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And thank you very much, everyone, for participating in World Gita Day. We heard from every continent of the world except for Antarctica, and everyone came together and participated. We celebrated the Bhagavad Gita. Not only that, we distributed it in mass quantities all over the world. World Gita Day is part of the Live to Give campaign that we do annually around the world. In fact, we're one world team working together. And this Gita Jayanti, which we've branded in such a way as to attract the general populace and bring in people from all walks of life who appreciate the Bhagavad Gita, is a means through which we can popularize the Bhagavad Gita on every continent. It's reasonable to do that. It's possible to do that. We can assume that we can do it. And it is one of the missions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. We should teach about Krishna. And the best book in the world for doing that is the Bhagavad Gita. So we have the goal, and that is to bring Bhagavad Gita to every continent, to every culture and society, in every language. And we're starting to do that now. Prabhupada put it in motion. He brought the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the most important book in the world. And now we're having it translated, and we've got lots of service to do together. So thank you very much, everyone who participated in this campaign to cover the earth with Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is especially important nowadays because people have lost their bearings and they need simple, direct instruction about how to operate their lives. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about yajna. This is reasonable when you explain it to people, that you don't get happy by trying to please yourself. You become happy by trying to please Krishna, the Supreme. And you explain that actually Krishna's the roots and we're just the branches and leaves, and we can't be happy without pleasing him. These are commonsensical points, but people never hear them. In the Bhagavad Gita, we learn about the three modalities and how they're affecting us in every aspect of our life. Our very minds are made of the three modes of material nature. So why wouldn't we be affected? So people get immediate clarity when they read the Bhagavad Gita. We need it in the world. It's the most important book for the masses of people everywhere. We should share the Bhagavad Gita. The most direct statement you'll find from Krishna about this is that in the 18th chapter, he said, there's no one more dear to me than the person who distributes Bhagavad Gita, and explains it to the devotees. Well, it just so happens that the living entities are all parts and parcel of Krishna. They're just waiting to become devotees. And the ones who will listen, we should teach it to. And it should be systematic and should be regular and should cover the earth. So reading it ourselves every day, which is something Prabhupada asked us to do. He said, read at least one chapter every day, and then try to share it with as many people as possible. And through the delivery system of the book, books are such an invention. They hold idea seeds, and when they go out into the world, the idea seeds spread out into the culture, and they start new ideologies. Well, we need a spiritual ideology in the world. People have become confused about what spiritual life actually means. What is spiritual technology? How can I live my life practically in a spiritual way? They're getting all kinds of misinformation, ultimately that God is impersonal. They don't know that God is a person. So Bhagavad Gita teaches that. So all the teams that participated and all the devotees all over the world who helped in any way, I thank you very much for joining in this campaign. We're just getting started and we're feeling our strength as one united team all over the world. We'll be printing more and more Bhagavad Gitas. We'll be asking more and more people to participate, and more people will come to Krishna consciousness from reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. So let's look forward to 2022, and we can start planning right away for expanding the work that we've done so far and finishing off this year with great gusto and smashing our goal of distributing at least 2.2 million Bhagavad Gitas. Thank you. Hare Krishna, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. It always gets the fire going when we hear from His Grace Vaisheshekar Prabhu. And that famous quote from Srila Prabhupada, he saw a Sherwin-Williams advertisement, and Sherwin-Williams is a paint company, and they have a bucket of paint, toxic as it is, pouring out over the whole planet, and it says, cover the earth. And Srila Prabhupada was in Detroit, where I'm just down the street from, when he saw such a poster and said, that is Mahaprabhu's movement. That's what we should be doing. And Vaisheshekar Prabhu and team, the One World Sankirtan effort, the global effort to cover the earth in Bhagavad Gita, is that way by which people can come to recognize the value of Mahaprabhu's chanting. The philosophy reinforces the experience that they have. It's not just a fleeting feeling of happiness, but it's an intellectual, it's a rational, it's a lived paradigm that you can bring into every moment of your life, whether it's in the classroom or with your children, or as Arjuna is experiencing, even on the battlefield, even in a place where everyone on the planet would agree, love cannot exist. Krishna, God himself, argues the point that it can and it must. It has to exist there if it's to exist anywhere. And by connecting to that, we ourselves can be instruments in helping the whole world experience this feeling of God's love that he offers Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. So huge thanks to Vaisheshekar Prabhu and team, most notably Anukul Seva Prabhu, Rukmini, Shammohini, and many others who I don't know of. I'm just a talking head, but Rukmini, if you could jump in and appreciate those people who deserve some appreciation, because this is truly, it's been a practically 24-hour kirtan marathon effort across the globe, glorification, Krishna Katha. It's powerful.
Well, thank you, Deva Madhava Prabhu, for recapping, just the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, in one sense of what we're doing today at World Gita Day. But yes, a huge thank you to Anukul Seva Shamwani and of course Shama Bhakti Mataji, who have been behind the scenes orchestrating things. But a special thank you to Ramananda Sakha Prabhu, who has been making this broadcast seem like it's all happening very live. Secret, it's not all live, but for those who are thinking that it's been live, he's been the magic behind the whole entire broadcast, and he is a stickler for detail, and you can see it in what's been happening with the whole entire broadcast. A huge thank you again to all the organizers for the individual regions. We are trying to expand. It's not always easy, and we're not there on the ground either, but the organizers from each individual region have been putting timeless effort, not only to this program, but also at the same time working on Sankirtan and going out on the street and distributing and sharing the Bhagavad Gita in so many different ways. So they're doing two jobs at once and still blissfully doing it. I don't know how they would do it. I would have pulled my hair out by now. So a huge thank you to all of them and all the participants. We are ending off right now. We're officially signing off here in North America. But those who are still viewing, please stay on. It's you'll get a chance to see all the credits, all the hard work, and all the individual devotees who have been working together as one team to bring this World Gita Day together, but far reaching the whole entire book marathon of distributing 2.2, or sorry, I should take it back, at least 2.2 million Bhagavad Gitas across the world. So a huge thank you and a Hare Krishna, and prayers for everyone out there who is on the street right now, either in blistering heat or blistering cold here in Canada, or Antarctica. If you were so enthusiastic you wanted to travel to Antarctica with Vaisheshika Prabhu's blessings, we wish you all the best and pray that you are able to bring this timeless wisdom to each and every house that you can, every town and village. Assume it can be done. Thank you again, Deva Madhava Prabhu. It's always a pleasure to see you and serve with you and serve you. And I hope to do that soon.
I hope you can too, because it means I'll get to go to the Rath Yatra in Toronto in person. So that's my hope also.
Thank you, everyone, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare